thank you very much, everybody, to joining us for this webinar. Today, we are going to talk about sustainable investing with Liontrust, and our title is "What You Should Know About Sustainability and Maybe You Don't Know." A very warm welcome to our speakers. It's Antonio Forte, International Sales Manager of Liontrust. It's in charge of Italian market. Thank you, Antonio.
Buongiorno, good morning.
And thank you to Peter Michaelis, Head of Sustainable Investing, Liontrust. Thank you very much, Peter, for your time.
Buongiorno, good morning.
So, Antonio, I will leave you for a brief introduction in Italian, and then we will start with Peter to go in the topic.
Perfetto. Allora, grazie, buongiorno a tutti, grazie Davide, grazie Fans People per darci l'opportunità di parlare di investimenti sostenibili. Innanzitutto auguro a tutti una fase 2 promettente e che ci conduca ad una bella estate. Io, come già mi ha anticipato Davide, sono Antonio Forte, sono responsabile commerciale per l'Italia in Liontrust. E parlando con Davide ultimamente ci è venuta l'idea di affrontare il tema della terminologia, quindi di affrontare le differenze tra i vari acronimi quali SRI, ESG, Impact, Green, Ethical. E mi rendo conto di essere il primo io ad utilizzare spesso i termini SRI ed ESG in modo quasi indifferenziato. Pertanto avvertiamo il bisogno di fare chiarezza, soprattutto adesso che gli investimenti sostenibili assumono importanza in Italia, non solo nella parte istituzionale, ma soprattutto tra gli investitori privati. Ed è per questo motivo che abbiamo chiesto ad una persona che investe nella parte sostenibile ormai da 25 anni di aiutarci in questa task. L'agenda di questa persona poi è sempre più fitta negli ultimi anni, ma in particolare nelle ultime settimane, quindi in epoca post-Covid. E parlo di Peter Michaelis, che ringrazio particolarmente per offrirci il suo contributo. Lo fa dalla sua casa ad Oxford. Peter Michaelis è il direttore investimenti SRI in Liontrust, gestisce un team di 16 persone e 7 miliardi di euro di masse in investimenti SRI. Detto ciò, vi lascio parlandovi solo di un aneddoto personale per introdurre la nostra idea di sostenibilità, e per farlo però mi servo del suo opposto, o cioè di ciò che è insostenibile. Capita spesso nella vita ordinaria, quantomeno a me, di riferirmi più a ciò che non è sostenibile che alla sostenibilità. E vi cito un esempio che mi è capitato di recente, ed è quello dei miei genitori che sono venuti a farci visita e a far da babysitter da noi a casa mia, quindi con mia moglie, già da gennaio, e che sarebbero dovuti ripartire a marzo, tuttavia poi gli eventi hanno posticipato la loro partenza. E io mi ricordo quando ho intuito che la loro permanenza si sarebbe prolungata per mesi, e lì ho capito: questa situazione non è sostenibile, è insostenibile. E infatti io mi riferivo al fatto che è una situazione che non regge nel futuro. Pertanto, tornando agli investimenti, per noi è sostenibile qualcosa che regge nel futuro e che regge non soltanto su un equilibrio finanziario, quindi il tradizionale equilibrio tra conto economico e stato patrimoniale, ma soprattutto che regge oggi in merito alle richieste che ci vengono dal mondo civile e dalla società, e che chiedono un mondo più efficiente, più sano e più sicuro. Pertanto, per noi sono sostenibili quelle società che sono remunerative, ma offrendo prodotti e servizi che contribuiscono ad un mondo più efficiente, più sano e più sicuro. Lascio qui la mia introduzione e parola a te, Davide.
Grazie mille, Antonio. Grazie mille. So thank you very much, Peter. Thank you again. And so we can start with the question that it's a 25-year question for you, which is the difference between the concept of sustainability 25 years ago and now. I mean, you have such a great experience in this that now is an asset class, but it's first of all a concept that it's inside the society, and in the society changed a lot in these years. And how could you explain the long road of sustainability till now that it's a topic that everyone is talking about in investing.
Okay. Thank you, David. And good morning again, everyone. First of all, I hope you're all healthy and well. And emerging from lockdown, I think Italy is a bit further ahead than us in England. Now, to the question about what is sustainability and why is it suddenly the topic that everyone's talking about in investment. And there's sort of two answers to this. And one is that sustainable development has always been part of our economic development. Our economies, if you look over hundreds of years, look back decades, hundreds of years, our economies have developed to become cleaner, healthier, and safer. And you can look at trends like I was looking at air pollution, even in Italian cities. Everyone talks about how bad the air pollution is in Milan, but actually it has improved. It has improved more than 4 times in terms of, if you look at particulate matter since 1980. So things have got a lot better there, and our water has got cleaner. So we do tend to improve our environment over time. Equally, when you look at health, we cooperate in our economies so that we can become, we can deliver better quality of life to people within our economies. And if you examine statistics around child mortality, so how many children die before their 5th birthday, that has been a steady trend of improvement. It's the best news ever, but it seldom gets reported because we just expect it to happen. But you've seen a 20-30 times improvement in that over the years, over the last 100 years. And then other aspects of our lives, getting safer, probably the riskiest thing we do. And typically Italy is meant to be one of the worst places on this, but the statistics actually say something different. In terms of road deaths, people dying on our roads, that too has improved hugely. And in Italy, it's fallen by nearly half since the year 2000. So our economies continue to develop sustainably, and so they have done for centuries, and they are to make our lives better, so to make our lives cleaner, healthier, and safer. And so investment plays a part in that, because the way that things improve is that you improve your understanding. So through science or through society understanding better about how to deal with these issues, society becomes aware of it, and then governments react, and governments say, okay, we are now going to build better sewage infrastructure, or we're going to vaccinate people. And they set the rules, and then businesses do what they do best, which is to innovate and to compete, to be the best at developing those new markets. And so you get this kind of virtuous cycle that goes around. And that's where investment plays a part. And that's where I get most excited, is where we can invest in companies which are providing a really positive purpose to society and the environment, and they're making a lot of money by doing so. And through the years, those have been the companies which have been really successful. The really successful healthcare companies, the companies which develop the safety equipment which makes our roads safer, or water companies that purify our water. And so in that way, sustainability and sustainable investing has always been part of the investment landscape.
I already have a question.
Just to your question about why now? Why is it suddenly everywhere?
Yes.
Why do you not move for people saying we've got a sustainable fund? And I think that is because there are some really big challenges ahead of us. So while we're solving a lot of the smaller challenges, the challenges around climate change, around the collapse in biodiversity, around inequality within our societies. These are new and really important challenges that we have to address, that has to change the whole way in which we get our energy. We get 80% of our energy from fossil fuels. We know we can't do that. And over the next 30, 40, 50 years, we have to take that to zero, which is huge. And so it's a huge challenge, but we're going to achieve that in the same way we've achieved those huge challenges in the past, which is, science, understanding what we need to do, governments setting the framework, and businesses then doing what we do best. And those businesses which are going to be successful are the ones which are going to make huge amounts of money for the investors in them. I
already have a question, and I remember also to our audience that they can use the Q&A button at the bottom line of the Zoom window so as to make questions, and we will answer during the webinar or in the end. But my question is the difference in time, the fact that now all these challenges you were talking about are considered global challenges and not like single challenges of single countries as maybe it was 25 years ago. I mean, we talked about carbon footprint, air pollution, or something like this. That there was like in the past years a lot of differences in the world between different coalitions or different countries, and some countries there are a lot of news, and we all about it now, like the fact that we try to to share our problem with other countries, and so as not to have inside our countries. I mean, I think that one big difference now is that there is in the world like the consciousness that these challenges are global challenges and no one can solve these challenges alone. Because I think that
in a way, yes, I think we definitely have global problems. So climate change is the classic example, but you have issues around depleting fish stocks or biodiversity, or societal challenges like overall inequality, and so just as we have global challenges, we're looking for global solutions. My view, though, is that we will. It's quite rare that you solve a problem through a purely political process. And so the way I see this working is that we will get certain countries who lead, and certain countries. So, for instance, on climate change, you will get countries that say, "Hey, look, we've totally decarbonized our electricity system, and look, we're much more productive, much more successful." And so you get other countries saying, "Hey, we want to do that as well." So I'm not sort of waiting here, twiddling my thumbs, hoping for the UN to say, "Okay, now we're all going to go green and low carbon." It'll happen because we have cheap photovoltaics, principally manufactured in China. You then have a framework which may be developed in Italy or in Germany or in Europe, and suddenly Europe is decarbonized,
yes.
And it's done, and you end up with a more successful economy, and so it continues. So that's how I think we will deal with these global challenges, is by finding global solutions, but at a sort of smaller level.
Yes, in time, global solution in time.
Yeah. Well, they happen rapidly, actually, and I think this is an important point, because people my age would have heard talk about climate change for the last 40 years. But what happens is you eventually reach a tipping point. And the best example of that is one we use quite a bit, which is in New York. In 1901, so at the beginning of the 20th century in New York, every single vehicle, and there were sort of 250,000 vehicles, they were all horse-drawn vehicles. And the big pollution problem was all the sort of horse shit and and the mess that these horses made. And people were saying, yeah, what are we going to do? There's no solution to this. And 10 years later, every single vehicle was a car. And so you get these, sudden changes, and we think we're in the midst of that. And so you want to be, when you're investing, you want to be backing the companies that most likely to be winning, not those that are the horse companies.
So I think it's important now to go in detail about taxonomy, because also we are European Union is working on it. The technical expert group is coming to a point so as to define taxonomy and what sustainable is in investing. So we choose three terms so as to explain it better for our audience, so as to understand what they should know about these words when you saw these words inside a fund name or inside.
Okay. Oh, David, I just lost you there. But if I can talk to David, we lost you just there. But do you want
to you can hear me now.
Taxonomy of ethical, sustainable, and ESG, or
okay, you can hear me now.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So the three terms are ESG, SRI, and impact investing. So it's important because we are talking a lot in Italy, but in Europe, I mean, everywhere about these three words. And it's important for our audience to understand what they exactly mean when they look at these terms inside a fund name or inside a fact sheet or a portfolio manager speech.
Yeah. Okay. So it can be very confusing. Suddenly there are all these sort of new terms flying around. I think the first thing is to say what they all have in common. And what they have in common is they are aimed at clients who care about the type of companies that their money is being invested in. So, and that's distinct from a normal fund where they will sort of not really care about the nature of the businesses that they're investing in. It's much more about, the style of investing and the returns that they're likely to get. So that's the first point. So, investors will care, of course, about the financial returns and the investment returns, but within ESG, within SRI, and within impact investing, they also care about the type of companies that they're investing in. And broadly, they are wanting those companies to do something positive. They want their money and investment to be used for a positive end. Now, I'll start with SRI. So SRI, sustainable and responsible investment, kind of encompasses quite a broad range of strategies, but they have at their heart the aim to deliver superior investment returns by investing in more sustainable companies. So they're using that sustainability as a sort of additional layer of information which they integrate into the investment process to deliver stronger returns. So that's how I would characterize SRI. You then have impact investing. Impact investing is where you say, okay, well, my primary aim is the positive impact. I want to invest in funds which deliver I want my money to lead to a reduction in carbon emissions or an improvement in social welfare through a microfinance fund. There, the financial aim is secondary. It doesn't mean it's zero, it's not charity, but it doesn't mean it's the primary driver. And so that's how to characterize an impact fund. And thirdly, ESG. To my mind, ESG is a sort of additional layer of analysis that you sprinkle on top, like your parmesan, onto a dish that you're already making. So it's taking a traditional fund and you're saying, okay, we now understand a bit more about how how society is changing and all of this, and our clients want a bit more sustainability into the funds. So let's put some ESG into it. And so that's really how I typify the three terms that you characterize. The most important thing, though, is to ask the asset manager, because everyone will position themselves slightly differently. So my main message is, don't just rely on the name in the fund name.
Yes, that's it. And so we already have a question, and to add of our terms and words we are explaining. It's the question is best in class versus exclusions. What are the pro and cons of each?
Okay.
So we can also talk about best in class and exclusion, and because it's something that is really needed now, because everyone is talking about also this.
Okay, well, exclusion is typically associated with ethical funds, where for a particular sort of moral point of view, or a sort of view about how the world's going to develop, you say, okay, we're not going to invest in companies involved in coal, oil, gas, or gambling, or business activities would typically have high negative costs on society or the environment. And so you start from that point of view and you say, okay, we're not going to invest there, and we're going to then work with what's left. So that's exclusion. I guess the downside to exclusion could be that you're excluding certain sectors, which means that in certain market conditions, your fund will perform differently and possibly negatively to that of the market. Say, we experienced this in the early 2000s, when you had that sort of materials boom from China, when coal, iron ore, gas, oil was all doing very well. So that would hinder you. Best in class is an approach which says, okay, companies which are better managed from a sustainability point of view, they manage their employees better, they have better control of the supply chains, they cause less environmental pollution. Those companies have better management, and so they're more likely to be successful in the future. And so you choose your best in class oil company, or best in class pharmaceutical company, or best in class tobacco company even, and you say we invest in that. Now, I think that there's obviously an investment rationale to it. I just find it myself. I find it very hard to say we should be investing in the best in class oil company, when our view is that within a couple of decades, the oil industry will be a fraction of the size it is today. So our approach, which we think balances the two, is to say we want to invest in positive industries and then find the best in class of those positive industries.
Clear. So, but we talked about exclusion, and exclusion, it means like unethical funds. I mean, do you think we can consider it? We can consider every funds that applies inclusion in a kind of way unethical funds, because you have to start from an ethical point of view, so as to start to make exclusions.
No, I mean, if you think about the job of an active fund management, and I'm talking about active fund management here, every investment strategy is an exclusion strategy. You are trying to exclude 90% of the companies out there, because you want to find those few companies that are that meet your criteria. So one way of talking about exclusion is to say, well, what do you want to include in the funds? So that's very much our way of looking at it. So we tried to find what we want to include in our funds, these few sustainable companies that are going to be great investments into the future. Now, as a sort of consequence of that, you end up excluding certain sectors. So we don't invest in any fossil fuels, no gambling, no arms companies, no tobacco. And so we do exclude those, but it's a consequence of the process, not the starting point. And I think that's what's distinctive, and how the industry has evolved from previously, say particularly church-related funds, Catholic funds would not invest in arms companies, in tobacco companies, and that's a purely ethical point of view, but it's now evolved from that to being much more about the positive.
Clear. So we have a last word to talk about, and it's a very important one, because nowadays there is also a lot of commercial interest on sustainable investing and sustainable funds, and so greenwashing is a problem to deal with for investors. And so it's important to say in details what greenwashing is and how to recognize. If you have any tips for investors that are looking for a pure sustainable fund, so as to look at the fund, to look at the companies, and to understand if the process can be considered really sustainable.
Okay, thanks. Yes, so clearly the investment industry has latched on to sustainable investing, and I'm so pleased because in the last 20 years there have been times when our team has felt quite lonely. We were the only ones out there doing it, and so we really welcome the competition, and we think it's great that there are now so many companies, and there are so many companies launching sustainable funds or rebadging existing funds sustainable. And some of those are great, and they're putting the right resources behind it. And some of them, I think you need to look more carefully. So my tips. First of all, I think it's really important to look at the resources and who's managing this business, who's managing these funds. How are they putting sufficient resources behind it? I listened to one presentation where they said, presentation went, we are taking sustainability really seriously, and to show how seriously we're taking it, we've hired an intern, a graduate intern, who's going to be doing the sustainability analysis. And to me, that's a warning sign. So first of all, look at the resources. Look at the experience of the team and the expertise that they can bring to it. To my mind, I would prefer a team that was only focused on sustainable investment. It's very hard to take someone who's been managing funds in a particular way for a long period of time and say, oh, can you now do it this way? So that, to me. The next point is question, does it really drive the investment decisions? Is it just that bit of parmesan, or is it really the recipe for the main meal? And finally, look at the portfolio. Look at the holdings of the portfolio, and I would look at the whole list of the portfolio, and if there are any companies in there which you look at and you think, I wasn't expecting to see that, write to the company and say, explain this to me. Explain why this is in. You will learn so much about that process, the process behind that. So it's a little bit more work, but it's very, very worthwhile, because it'll give you much greater confidence in the fund and its approach.
Clear. Thank you very much. So it's important now to go to talk about how you select companies, and you already talked, and how is the pattern you use so as to reduce the universe and to find the companies you want to invest in. And you already mentioned the three megatrends you consider are inside the sustainable investments, and in particular you have also 20 subsectors of these three megatrends. If you want to mention some of them and why they are in this megatrend and how they are related one to each other.
Okay. I won't go through all 20 because I don't think we have time. But why don't I'll start with one, which is improving the efficiency of energy use. I mentioned that cheap and available energy is what makes our lives so so good and makes the modern societies possible. But we do use energy very inefficiently, and one of the areas where we use about a quarter to a third of all our energy is in our buildings. And we look for companies that are helping us to improve the energy efficiency of our buildings through cooling, heating, and that led us to looking at a company called Kingspan. And Kingspan do thermal efficiency for buildings. So when you build a house or an apartment block or a skyscraper, you need to make sure that the heat doesn't leak out and the heat from the outside or the cold doesn't come in too. So you have to use thermal efficient panels. And Kingspan produce a panel that is very thin but very, very effective. And their whole business strategy has been linked to energy efficiency in buildings. And that has meant that they have grown their sales line over 25 years by more than 15% per annum. It's the most phenomenally successful business strategy in what is, quite a boring sector, is the building product sector. So they've been incredibly successful. And what we also like about them is their impact. And they estimate that through the use of their products, so all their energy efficiency products in use at the moment, they save nearly 4 times the electricity consumption of the whole of London every year. And so the more they sell, the more that goes up. So that's a really good example of a holding within our portfolios that we think will continue to do well in the future. If you take another theme, which is really timely and important as we go through the corona pandemic, and it's the theme around innovation in healthcare. Now, we believe that we are going through a step change in the way we treat diseases. And one area is around gene therapy. And this is actually being used to develop the vaccines for corona, the COVID virus as we speak. And that leads us to companies like Lonza. Lonza is a Swiss company. 71% is involved in sort of biotech and healthcare. And they provide, if you like, the production capability and technology to produce the vaccines, to produce the therapies, and to produce the tightly controlled sort of technology that you need to deliver these gene therapies. And the analogy that we use is that if you go from aspirin, the aspirin molecule to a gene therapy molecule, it's like going from a bicycle to a space shuttle in terms of complexity. So we think they're very well positioned to benefit from the next few decades of development here. And then finally, going back to that theme around improving auto safety, so improving the safety of our cars and vehicles. The sort of the weakest link in the car is us, is our eyes and our brain and our reaction time. And as we get more grey hairs, so it gets worse. So we need our cars to be more intelligent and think more quickly than us and react more quickly. And the company at the center of that is a company called Infineon, which is a German semiconductor company, that they make the chips which help the cars improve in their thinking. And a modern car today, a top of the range electric vehicle, has about over $1,000 worth of chips in it. A sort of conventional internal combustion engine car without the safety equipment has a few $100s worth. So you can see the step change. They become computers on wheels. And so we think that's a trend which will continue for many years to come.
And as we talked about all these and how you create a fund and you select the stocks, I think it's also really important to give to spend some words on reporting, because it's for investors it's also really important to know what they should know about the funds. I mean, how they they can look through the funds and through the results that the fund is capable to give in terms of sustainability, and how sustainability is related with performance. And so, how do you report results, financial and non-financial results, and how it's which is the proper way so as to inform the clients about the results that the fund management team is capable to give.
Yeah, and this is an important area, and one that is developing or continues to develop, because yes, we want to say to our funds, we delivered you strong investment performance, and I'm pleased to say we have a strong track record of doing so, but we also want them to be aware that, you know, where it's coming from. So one of the things we do is we show our clients the percentage of the portfolio linked to each theme. So how much is linked to auto safety, how much is linked to innovation in healthcare, so that they can kind of see, you know, from my €1,000 invested in the fund, this much is in each sector. We also look at some measures like carbon. So we will look at the carbon intensity of our funds, and our funds typically have 75% less carbon than the index. We look at the proportion of the portfolio driving a lower carbon future, which is typically around 30%. And then we state that we have no investments in old coal, oil, or natural gas. And so in that way, we can talk about carbon. We also link our funds to the Sustainable Development Goals. So we say which of the SDGs are linked to the funds. And we're trying to develop more indicators around, so in healthcare, you know, trying to link it to, you know, lives saved. But I just want to be a little cautious on that, because it's quite a long link between us investing in a company that develops vaccines and saying we saved, you know, 1,000 lives. And so I think the industry, sustainable investment industry, needs to be very careful about overclaiming. So what we say is we're aligned. Our investments are aligned with a positive purpose, but we're not saying if you invest £1,000 with us, you will save, you know, someone's life. But we are backing businesses that are doing that. So that's the sort of nuance behind it. But we're trying to make it clearer and clearer to our clients exactly where their investment returns are coming from.
Clear, thank you. And we have a question that it's an interesting one that leads us to the line between what is investable and what is not in sustainable investments, because it is about the possibility to have in a fund microfinance or microinsurance realities. I mean, how it's I think not all the companies, not all the activities that are related to finance and sustainability are investable, or if I don't know if they are for you or not. Like realities like this one, like microfinance in development countries, realities like this. How do you look at this?
Well, I think microfinance and microinsurance are great examples of how finance can be a force for good, which I think is nice to know since we all work in finance. And so for us, we look at the financial sector and we say, okay, well, a sustainable economy needs to have you know, good insurance. You know, companies offering good insurance is great because it spreads risk and it allows us to you know, to deal with potentially catastrophic events in our lives in a way that, you know, allows us to mitigate those. So we think insurance is incredibly important, and there's a really strong link between penetration of insurance and social development in countries. And so we're very supportive of insurance when it's done well. Yeah. Equally, when it comes to banks, you know, we sort of take it for granted that we can have a bank for our savings and our deposits, and we can get a loan when we need it to develop a business or to buy a house. If you don't have those, it makes economic development really difficult. And so that's why microfinance is such a great way of, kickstarting economies within communities. And we look for banks which are well capitalized, which provide, good loans to the right people and provide good deposit taking. So yes, financial services is part of a sustainable economy, but you have to be very selective about which ones you do invest behind, because you can then get those businesses which are very aligned with delivering a social purpose. And the banks that have that stronger social purpose are the ones which have delivered a stronger return on equity through crises and through this pandemic. They're the ones you want to back.
So I would like to also Antonio to join us now, so as to answer a question together, because I want to know about in your Italian meetings in the past, because now we are in a lockdown situation still, and so which is the things that you expected to be questioned about or to receive answers, and you Italians just didn't ask about these things, and you can suggest to ask I don't know, in a meeting if there is something that it's not considered so much in Italy about sustainable investment, and you think it is important. And also Antonio can. Yes, Antonio, please.
I think I have the privilege to see a lot of different clients, investors in Italy, from retail to the very institutional. And I see there is a lot of different knowledges about that. But what I'm feeling more toward the retail, there is still this belief that sustainable investments is just about ethical, so just about the exclusion. So I think we should all work about, knowing better how all this has developed and the potential all of this. And together with this, I would like to ask a question to Peter. If he can really say in a few words, what are the difference that he sees in Europe from different countries? Because we know that, for example, in the north of Europe, they started, years ago. They're more advanced in their, appetite to this kind of investment. So which difference does he see in different countries and the attitude toward these investments?
I think mostly I see a similarity, is that when investors are aware that there is the option to invest sustainably and that they can generate strong performance from it, then there's huge appetite. There's huge appetite. I think that the main difference, the main kind of catalyst for change is when advisors start actively promoting these funds. Certainly in the UK, we've gone from a situation where advisors would go to clients, "Oh, don't talk to me about ethical funds," to now them going, "There's a great business opportunity here. This is fantastic. If I just learn a little bit about these sustainable funds, I can suddenly get all this demand." And there are clients who end up much happier to pay for the advice as well. So I think people are in different stages of that journey, but they will, I think definitely in Europe, they're definitely getting there. And we've seen the same actually in America too, where it's flipped like that from, sustainable investing only being for people who, went to the Woodstock Festival in the 60s to now it being, the coolest thing to happen in California and Silicon Valley.
Yes.
So I think it does change, but I think that the change is permanent and it's one that's going to continue to grow.
And this is going to be also helped with the regulation, because now financial advisors have to ask to the clients to give their opinion about sustainable investments and how they want to invest in this asset class that now is on fire. So thank you very much. Our time is running out, and thank you very much to Antonio Forte, International Sales Manager, Liontrust.
Grazie a voi.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter Michaelis, Head of Sustainable Investing of Liontrust, to be with us and for the time to explain to us some vocabulary and some interesting things about sustainable investments. So thank you very much. Thank you very much again.
Grazie, a presto.
Bye.
Ciao.